Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today's story is a heartfelt journey of love, sacrifice, and the quiet courage to follow one's heart. A narrative that delicately explores the emotional battleground between devotion and destiny, through the lives of James, Dipe, and Tong. After a long period of painful treatment, Dipe was allowed to return home from the hospital. But it wasn't because she was healed, far from it. The illness she carried was terminal, relentless, and deemed too complex to cure. Her doctor, in a bittersweet decision, hoped that the familiar warmth of her home, and the love that waited there, might offer her spirit some strength, if not her body. At home, Dipe's every breath was a quiet struggle. Her steps were slow, each one a fragile defiance against the illness inside her. But through it all, James stood by her side, unshaken. Once a high-powered CEO who defined himself by ambition, James had now placed his entire career on pause, not out of obligation, but out of unspoken, unwavering love. He cooked her meals, measured out her medicine with gentle care, and stayed awake during her feverish nights, cooling her brow with damp towels and murmuring words of comfort. His love was never loud. It was soft, enduring, real. One morning, Dipe stepped quietly onto the porch and saw James, sleeves rolled up, hands in the dirt, feeding chickens. His elegance replaced by humility. His wealth exchanged for simplicity. Tears welled in her eyes. Before her stood not the man she once admired, but someone who had stripped away every comfort just to ease her pain. In his simplest acts, Dipe saw a love deeper than any promise, a love lived. But even devotion has its limits. When a crisis at the company called him away, James had no choice but to leave. He held Dipe's hand tightly, reluctant, whispering, "I'll be back soon." "Please eat, rest, and take care of yourself," and then silence. The house, once full of his quiet presence, now echoed with loneliness. Yet Dipe, ever brave, chose not to fall into despair. She wiped the tables, watered the plants, and made her way to the long-forgotten garden. Though her body ached, she pushed through, not for herself alone, but for James. For love, elsewhere, another heart stirred. Tong, the man who had loved Dipe from afar for years, was haunted. The memory of her, frail and pale on that hospital bed, refused to let him rest. His heart, heavy with what-ifs, sat in turmoil. His father, wise and quiet, saw his struggle and offered a single piece of advice that would change everything. Don't repeat the mistake that cost you Lan. If you love her, speak. Live with honesty. Live without regret. Those words struck a buried chord. Years ago, Tong had let Lan slip away, paralyzed by poverty and fear. He watched her walk out of his life in silence, a silence that nearly destroyed him. But now, he had changed. He had found success. And in Dipe's resilience, he had found reason to hope again. Fueled by a newfound courage, Tong made a decision. He would not stay quiet any longer. Early the next morning, he stood before the garden gate of Dipe's home. There she was, bending gently over rows of vegetables, her hair catching the morning sun. She looked up, surprised but smiling softly. "You're still recovering," Tong said, his voice a gentle murmur. "Where's James?" "He's at work," Dipe replied. "I just wanted to move around a bit." "I'm feeling better." Tong said nothing more. He stepped beside her, rolled up his sleeves, and began tending the garden. In that moment, no words were needed. There was only the sound of leaves, soil, and two hearts working side by side. Tong, a farmer's son, showed her how to trim the leaves and rid the crops of pests. At one point, dirt splashed onto her cheek. Without thinking, he reached out and wiped it away, his touch softer than the breeze. Later, beneath the blooming plum tree, they sat in silence. And then, Tong spoke. "I'm not saying this to take you from James. I just want you to know. I've always been here. I care for you. And if you'll let me, I want to be the one who stays." Dipe froze. She had never imagined that the man who had stood quietly by her side all these years carried such a deep love. Her lips parted, then closed again. She had no words, but Tong only smiled. "You don't have to say anything now. Just knowing you know, that's enough for me." He stood, brushed the dirt from his sleeves, and walked away, into the twilight. Behind him, Dipe sat still, her heart trembling with confusion, her hands still warm from his confession. But fate wasn't done. As Tong reached the gate, he came face to face with James, just returned from his trip. Their eyes locked. The air grew heavy. "I stepped back once," Tong said calmly, his voice low and steady. "Because I thought you could make her happy. I was wrong. This time, I won't walk away." James said nothing. Tong turned and left. Each step he took was not a retreat, but a declaration. And now, the quiet war for Dipe's heart has begun. Two men. One love. One woman standing at the crossroads of devotion and destiny. Who will she choose?